Hey, what's up? It's your boy BobbySapphire. I am here with my top 8 teammate Justin Desai. We just got back from Philly, and boy, are our decks tired.
I've had just about enough of Bobby Sapphire, let me tell you. This guy will not let me win a tournament. Back to back champ, unreal run, I will tell you. What
Well,
a time. It's been like compressed into such a short period of time because it's been so much time at sectors and like so little time not at sectors. Like we got back from Portland on Monday and then it's like on Friday you're just right back on the road this time. You were on the rails. Um,
yeah, it's like
we
6 days of
like planes,
traveling with
trains, and
4 days of
automobiles,
work.
like
Yeah.
the Steve Martin movie. Literally, we're living that life, just the SWU version of it. But
Oh, that's true.
unreal
I
time. Philly
flew.
was great. It was
We flew to
awesome.
Portland. I took a train to Philly. You drove with Maddie to Philly. We are planes training an automobile, and yeah, just so much swoo and very little work in between.
Very little work, very little losing. Not to brag and sound like a sort of a pompous man, but boy, did we have a run. Your run is incredible. Um, my run may be a little overshadowed by that, but I'm still very proud of the
No,
back to back
your
top
run is
eights.
crazy, and we're gonna get to just exactly how I outsmarted the meta here in a little bit.
Yeah,
But
insane. Your
um,
top eight,
obviously, an absolute
very the
legendary
least.
run. So today we're gonna talk about the Philly SQ, how we navigated limited, and just sort of general recap of the event, and then like what our specific plan was throughout the three events: the sealed event on day one, and the two drafts, which are very different. There's a lot of strategy involved. One thing that is been brought up a lot over the last 24 hours is like this is the format for Worlds: constructed, sealed,
Mm.
constructed and draft, and like. I hadn't really thought about that until we made the top 8 again, and people started talking about that. But like people don't want to watch limited content, but if you're gonna play in Worlds, you have to. So
You have to.
here's everything. We're gonna get really deep into it.
And one of the things that we did is like we practiced, and we did some like demo seals and we got together and practiced. But one of the things we did is we talked a lot about it internally. We had some limited content that we were posting. Like our first match of the week, it wasn't necessarily like the most hyped video that we've ever done, but we talked about sealed pools. We talked about like why something we thought was good maybe wasn't as good. There was a lot of chatter throughout like development. Like I reevaluated like my approach to everything in limited, and
We
that was
did
really good. And I think
like I just did build like I was streaming on Tuesday. Got on early and streamed to build. We had a team joint practice with the Dodonis Disciples guys. Like we took this really seriously, like
yeah,
from the jump, and like have continued to try and make limited content. And because we really think it's important, and I think it showed this weekend. Before
yeah,
we
it was
get
sick.
into the event recap, we want to shout out Tim and Claire from McClunky Gaming for putting this on, and shout out to Jack from FFG for helping them get really supported, and whoever else from FFG did. But you could see Tim and Claire on the screens over there, huddled watching our semifinal match, and you can see all the VODs on Twitch and YouTube. They're just the best.
They set the standard for how it should be done. To be honest, it is so good. Um, they treat everyone amazing when you're in that area. That's like a really cool thing. So if you're fortunate enough to be in a feature, I was in um, two sort of main features, and then I had one side feature. Like it's so nice there. They're like walking through how it all works.
Bring you
Um,
water, bring you
yeah,
snacks.
just like really, really cool the way that it all goes down. So yeah, nothing but good things to say
Yeah,
about them. They are really class
they're
acts
just absolutely
and
the
good friends.
nicest. Go give them a sub. Go give them a Twitch Prime sub. Hook these people up because they are doing the tireless work. Tim had to drop from the event to get the stream up and running. He usually likes to play in these
Wow,
things, and really love those guys.
right.
So shout out to them. All right, day one. What a day! Your pool was great from the jump. I was the featured builder on the YouTube stream, and it didn't feel great, but I ended up
Hmm.
having some players. I just like one of the things that we talked a lot about leading up, and a lot of people think that like Talzin is like the end all be all of this format. But we both played OB day one, and I didn't lose to a single Talzin. And I don't know if I played any of
Same.
the absolutely broken pools, but like I beat Michael Conroe somehow. He had double Battle Fury Talzin, and like that was really brutal. But like Obi-Wan aggression and being able to pump out of range of getting got by some of that Talzin stuff pivoting to space late game is how I won most of my matches.
Yep, that's how I was 2-0 against Talzin. I did play, I think, the most broken pool in the format, and I was able to 2-1 it, 2-0 it with the same structure. You can talk about that a little bit. I think you're right. I played Talzin on both the draft formats, but I preferred Obi actually. Really, overall, I preferred Obi. I didn't open Obi or get past Obi in the drafts, but I was fortunate enough to have him in sealed. My sealed, I don't think it was broken. I think it was very good. I don't think it was one of those ones people scanned and said, "Oh my God, you've got these cards." But it was very strong. It was uniformly strong, which is exactly what I wanted going in to the draft. I said I want to be able to play my good commons and my good uncommons. If I have a couple really good rares or legends, I'd certainly take them, and I did. But I wanted like a good curve, and I
Yeah,
wanted my like 10th best card to be very reasonable and sort of strong. Like I didn't want to play a card like that just wasn't. You always had to play them in draft at some point, but I wanted the cards like that came after my best cards to be still very good,
yeah, a
and
deep
you'll
pool,
see that in my pool.
yeah, too deep. Like when you have a deck that you have to like actually make cuts rather than you have to be like, oh my god, I have to play a lot
Right,
of blanks. So
right.
you went 9-0, which was absolutely insane, especially your final match against Dusty Hostetler, and you guys went to fatigue and
We went to fatigue. I killed.
burned.
What is it? Is it Night Sister
Yeah, you
Warrior, the
killed his
one that
Night
draws
Sister Warrior to get up
to
on
get us
the
even? We were
yeah,
exactly even on cards, and I killed his Night Sister Warrior to
burn
make
him
him draw a card.
basically.
I played Diagon Warrior, and I was like, nope, not triggering that guy. Like,
Yep.
I'm going to leave the one card left in my deck. And actually got to Fatigue, and not only that, but I also got to, like, I think he actually would have won. I had exactly Maz in my hand. So it was like Fatigue, take 6, and then I had a pretty big unit out, and I Mazed for lethal.
Yeah.
Just to take the 9-0. I was very proud of the 9-0. I think, like, being the only 9-0 was really cool.
Absolutely.
I did a lot of like mental prep for this, like sort of I had like a lot of like the team stuff that we had talked about, but then I had a lot of internalization about what I wanted to do. I shared it, but I sort of knew, I like understood like this is what I want to do, and it worked out really well.
Yeah,
And you
really.
coming in fourth, I thought was maybe more impressive though, because I think your pool was average to below average. I think mine was above average to like well above average, not broken. You'll see them in a second.
Hmm.
When we say not broken, like broken is the one that's like the double constructed lightsaber, like the
Like
three
triple
mythics,
Talzin's Assassin, triple
triple
Chariot, things like
thousands
that.
with other stuff.
Yeah, I would say so. I went 4-0 versus Talzin, but I
I
think
was
like I think
3-0
a
against
lot of
Talzin.
people went like I think a lot of people just got a lot of value off of playing people who maybe like weren't prepared to fight Talzin or had strategy into Talzin. But I had a very specific strategy.
And you
Um,
shared that with me, which was like, let's duke it out. Let's let's duke it out and let's go to space. I actually found a third layer of strategy based upon my pool specifically that I'll share when we get to that slide.
okay. Okay, Justin, here's your seal deck. It's not in the image here, but you played Obi-Wan Blue, and you've
Yep.
got those two sneaky Jedi Sentinels over there because you were siding those in, right?
Yeah, I was citing those in pretty much every match. I also had an Overpower and a Kiadi that every so often would come in, and I would bring in just one Jedi Sentinel. But the Cure Wounds, and I forget the name of the card, but the green-white card that like pulls two
Yeah.
Force units from top 8 and puts them on top of your deck. I cut that. I never played it. I cut it. I resourced it in game ones. It was basically just a useless card. But this was the pool, the only 9-0 pool. I'm pretty happy and proud on that. I like I said earlier, this to me is power. So I opened Talzin in this pool. I opened Old Daka and opened a Talzin's Assassin, as you see on the screen. And I was like, okay, I should be Talzin red. I should be Talzin green. But ultimately, what I did was I said to myself, what are like the middle ground cards here? What are the cards that I'm going to be happy to open and start the game with? And cards like Gungan Warrior, the two big white ships for Rebel, Jedi Guardian. There was just a lot of cards, and then you could combine that with like Gungi and Ezra and even the Grogu. Even though Grogu is not amazing and limited, would double protect the pod. He certainly is.
Yeah.
And I
Also,
knew that once
triple
the later tables, I would
triple
get
awakened
to
specters is crazy.
yeah, and like that guy was amazing, and I was just like, how? And obviously he would be good in the Talzin, but he was so good in the Obi being a 5/6. And as the tournament went on, I was like, I'm making this guy a 5/6. I'm putting the counters on him, makes him really hard to kill, and he's also hits for so hard. So like, pretty frequently I would be putting it on him instead of like an Ezra or something like that.
Yeah, this is a
Um,
wild like because you look at it and it's like okay, there's nothing crazy strong. Like Anakin's good, but he's not
Anakin's good.
incredible.
He was really good. And people were saying he was like amazing. And there were certainly games that he was broken for me. I think in two occasions he was really really good. One was I played a Talzin first. The Talzin died, and then I was able to actually use his ability. That
That's
was one game
crazy.
I can recall. And the other one is that I played him on turn three with Jedi Guardian,
Consular.
not Jedi Counselor, and he killed a shielded Shin Hati that had gotten buffed by Snoke.
Yeah,
So
that's
that was
crazy.
like, oh boy, that was pretty great. But
I think
yeah, I
Shin
mean,
Hati should have just killed the consular.
probably should have
If
went after the consular in that stage.
yeah,
But like the best card obviously is Protect the Pod in this
double
pool.
protect the pod and double
Um,
bolstered. I'd say double hyper bolstered. It's like they had
double,
to have been your
double
MVPs.
They were awesome, and like I made this deck was so synergistic. Like as the game was developing, I was just getting like these big units out early. I had Gungi that was like attack like any hand that I had Gungi, I felt like I almost couldn't lose. But then like when if I didn't have Gungi, I would have like maybe a Jedi warrior, and then I would follow it up with like an Ezra or a Grogu. I had one game where I had Ezra pumping like my lone wolf to infinite.
Yeah.
The back there is Maz, so I had just like so much like I don't want to say tempo, but just like the early game, I just always felt ahead, and then the
Hmm.
two ships towards the end were great,
Yeah, those
so I could
ships are
win long
great. We
games, I
talked
could win
about this,
short
like the
games.
those being commons and absolute late game bombs. Just like that's what makes heroic, in my opinion, and even like why I like Obi and Ahsoka more than Talzin.
I like Obi better than
Not
all
more than
leaders.
Talzin, but like against Talzin.
I like Obi against Talzin, and I think my preference going into day two was I was hoping to open Obi again. I know it's a little bit of like recency bias. I 9-0'd this. I beat three Talzins. I beat a broken pull with constructed lightsaber and craving power and Anakin and double Talzin's assassin and
Yeah, but if
shirt and
it
like all these
if it
things, and I
has the
just
things you want, like if you just want to be playing protect the pods and big ass units in the beginning, like he's
right.
perfect for that,
He's perfect.
and
And
he
then
buffs
one of the
everything.
things I mentioned earlier was like I knew that the Talzins were going to want to tangle into me and like use Talzin's ability to actually like fight my units, and that's where the Anakin and the Talzin's assassin were so good because they could actually finish the job. Like people would ram to Tyrannotex into me, and then I would just open like Talzin's assassin, kill it, and I had the Talzin's assassin, Anakin still in my deck somewhere. Now I'm like, hey, the long game favors me because now that Talzin's assassin can die, and now I've got the hero and villain. And then I've
Yeah,
got two ships, and like these longer games can go on.
and
Jedi Guardian, stuff
we
like
both
that.
used ambush to great effect in this regard. Like we both used monkey lizard as a way to also kill things that the Talzin would hit us into.
Right.
And I had even more in mind than the monkey lizard, but we both used monkey lizard as like a 2 mana do two to a ground unit.
Yeah. So this is like I said, I think this pool is well above average. But you know, I think the cards that you would say like are like sort of on the broken side is like two protect the pod.
Hmm.
It's a common. Wasn't the only one who had two protect the pod. The Anakin is a very playable legend. The Grogu was essentially the same as the 2/6 green
Yeah,
guy.
basically the same.
I think I used his ability exactly once, and then I think a
That's
few
crazy.
times people were like, "I need to kill the Grogu," so maybe there was a little bit of a target there.
Yeah.
But oftentimes I would just get him to 7 with Obi-Wan's ability, and then use Protect the Pod to pin down a Talzin. And that was actually where the bolster endurance was fantastic too, because you could take an action, make a bigger Obi-Wan, attack, put another experience counter on something,
Yeah.
hold up, protect the pod, and they're just like they're Talzin sitting there, and you're just like, "Yep, cool. If you want to pass, I'll claim. It's fine."
Yeah, bolstered plus protect the pod had to have won you so many games as the Obi
So
form.
many games went down to that pattern, and then there was also a couple games where I went like, did that, they passed. I played like a Night Sister Warrior. I attacked, pumped it with Obi-Wan's ability, and then they're like, okay, attack. But then the next turn, I just open it up
Yep.
and protect the pod right then. So, yeah, this deck was amazing. I loved it. Like I said, I made the sideboard changes, but you know, there's no Churret, there's no Itinerant Warrior. You know, the fours were solid, but they weren't. You know, they were just body. They literally have
4 or 5
no
blanks. Yeah.
text. But I really liked all my spells. There's no lightsaber that has restore, but the other one was fine as a 4 cost. Yeah, Gungi was great. It was really this deck was hummed all day long. Maz was fantastic. I never played Tauntaun, but yeah, this was awesome.
Yeah, well, great job making the 9-0. This is my OB yellow list,
It's not awesome,
which is
but
not
it's
it's not
more
awesome,
impressive going
but
8-1.
um like I did have ended up boarding in the heirloom lightsaber every game. I cut the 6 drop 410 every single game for the heirloom lightsaber after we talked
Yeah,
about it.
that's
So I
what I
included
told when
that.
we looked at that. We were talking about pools after I think game 1 or 2. I was like, no, the heirloom is just good at 4.
But I just had an like anytime I started consular um youngling Padawan or mysterious hermit, I kind of just popped off, and I had like multiple, and like under my outer rim scout is a under outer rim mystic is a Maz too, so like I had a lot of like awesome Maz plays. I don't know. I guess I didn't realize that I covered up some cards here. I had a Life Wind Sage under that Dooku. But I just got an early lead with my 2 drops. I just mulled for a good 2 drop. And like
Yep.
you said, you played early Anakin's. I also had several games where I played a turn 3 Depa Balaba, which is also really tough to come back from,
Yep.
or a turn 3 uh, Blue Squadron Assault Wing and buffing it. Like there's just so many like great plays that I could make late game to get ahead. And a lot of it was just focused on pushing and having nice tricks. That Burden of Masters, 1 mana, makes something come in with a 2/2. +2/+2 was crazy. Like I did that on Charging Phallic like multiple times for the extra to basically make him a turret attack, which was
That's
crazy.
cool.
Impossible Escape and Will of the Force were just complete all stars, and I would hold on to that overpower to pump kill like so many times because I was just trying to like present damage. Like I would just play it on my ship and be like, "Lethal, do you have it?" And most of the time I was doing it after grinding out actions. But it was a real grind. It was just a real grind. But
Crazy you have like
Obi was
almost
great.
no threes. Like you have the ship, you have I think one's I think did you have 2 of that um
No, what
Ithorian guy?
the out it's Maz behind him.
Oh, you
Yeah,
do the math, so that's a
almost
good
every
one.
time I was just playing another 2 drop because I did have a ton of two
Yep.
drops. So most of my games were like Young Padawan, Untap, Jedi Consular, or vice versa.
Right. I guess that's not the worst. And that's the nice thing about Obi-Wan is your 2s can become 3s and think you kind of if you hit with the Force once, your units are just going to be pretty solid. Like he does give you a really strong foundation. One of the things that I liked about Obi-Wan, I'm not sure if your experience was like this, like the fact that he flipped on 5. Obviously, I lost to Snoke in the finals with Talzin, but I had no pressure. Like, or lost to Snoke. Yeah, lost to Snoke with Talzin. But I beat I think 2 or 3 Snokes on day one, and it was just so nice to know that they weren't flipping, that they were using a resource to pump a guy, and I was just like, okay, cool. I'm doing that for free, and I'm flipping a turn earlier.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Be-
press your base. I'm
because
gonna attack your base.
Snoke and Sealed, Kit and Sealed are so much different. Where like
Yeah.
you're probably not gonna have a Snoke pool with 3 strike ships and 2 Exco patrollers and 2 Forge
Right.
starfighters, but when you're in draft, you can absolutely pick that kind of stuff up. So
Right.
just because you see more cards and you get pick selection. So I agree. Like seeing those Snoke decks or those decks that like really want to be draft decks and not sealed decks made a deck like Obi Wan, and also just being able to buff above the stat line of everyone else felt really great. And get nice
Yeah.
tricks in things like, like you said, protect the pod, or like I had Burden of Masters, and the Will of the Force here was just a bomb. So yeah, so all in all, I grinded Tate one. I really didn't think I faced any amazing pool though. I think I got lucky in that regard. That like everything felt like a fair fight, and the only one I lost to was a really aggressive Ahsoka deck that I could not slow down with lots of
Cool.
suit-ups. Yeah. All right, let's talk about day two. And then day two, we get to draft. So we were in the number one draft pod. Some pictures there. I guess like one of the top 8 pictures snuck in, but we get to draft. It was pretty cool to be in just that like top 8 draft, and around some really great players. Like there were some really great players in that pod. Antonio, who came in second, Dusty, who was your final match, DDA, who's won some PQs, and a couple guys from our or Jay Still, who's to my left there, from our playtesting tier. Just like a great top 8, and
Yeah.
this and just like the leader draft part of it became so complicated. And there were so many OBs around me that I actually got past an OB,
Wow.
which I thought was like pretty wild because I think they wanted to not be in green, but green was so fought out over in my side of thing that I ended up going with an Ahsoka yellow, which we'll see. What was your thoughts about the day 2 draft?
Well, the first pod, first of all, is all people who are 8-1 or better. So it was a clean cut to, so it was 7 8-1s, and then me at 9-0. And my approach was a little different because I had to only win one game to top 8. So I was like, just don't mess this up. Like, don't fall into a trap. And then it was weird because the person to my left opened 2 Talzins. I opened a Talzin and 2 Snokes. So it was like, that was just strange. So what I did, it kind of screwed Dusty, but I couldn't pass him the Talzin, even though I knew I was going to get a Talzin. I couldn't have all 3 of us fighting for a Talzin. So I took Talzin as my first 2 picks and just knew that I was going to be Talzin. One of the top leaders.
Just forced it.
If not the best. It is what it is. And I now know that Dusty doesn't have it. He's to my right. So right. I can actually, for 2 packs, I can get the blue villain cards. I don't think he's trying to cut both of us. Although he could have, and that would have been an interesting one. But like I don't think that would have.
Blue, yeah.
He went Snoke blue and cut us. But then I'm still like, I just don't want to be green, right? So I knew that I didn't want to be green. And that's sort of what ended up happening. And I knew that the guy to your left, I know he's in our playtest and get all the names. It's Jay Still, who I played. He did have we'll talk about my match against him in round 8. His pool on day 1 is probably the best pool I've ever seen in any game. Mm-hmm. But I kind of thought like, oh boy, Jay Still is going to be screwed because he ended up having like sort of like he was the spot where everything kind of merged together.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't going to have a good leader. And he wasn't going to be getting really what he wanted. He was going to be the one who kind of was just confused the entire time on what to happen. But
yeah,
I think
like,
he did
passing
have a
the
tough one.
Obi kind of even made it worse because he just didn't have anything to focus on.
Right. So I knew I was going to get 2 packs of blue cards, and then I knew I wasn't going to get any great blue cards coming to the right in pack 2. And then my goal was just to figure out what other color was going to be open, and that's what happened.
Yeah, I was getting fed blue hero. I wanted to be Ahsoka. I was not expecting to get past that Obi-Wan, but I was expecting to not have to fight over the green cards based on what was to my right. So I was going to be blue whatever Ahsoka, and I was almost purely mono blue pack 1, and was getting past like Itinerant Warrior and stuff. I got past 2, like I got Ezra's, like I got so much good blue, and then late I just started getting like Jedi Sentinel and like Will of the Force, and the yellow stuff came, and I was like, okay, great, I'll just be blue.
There was a lot of Will of the Forces just moving around that draft. Funny enough, if you had opened a Talzin and I had opened an Obi-Wan, we would have met in the finals of this draft. I'm very confident of that because it would have been exactly what you want to happen, which is like being the hero with people Talzin to your right, being Obi with Talzin to your right and left, being Talzin with Obi to your right and left. Is exactly what you want to be. So we were both in like you were hero in next to a bunch of other heroes. I was villain next to other villains. Although Dusty actually did go Kit Fisto. Mm-hmm. I think he tried to sort of recognize hey, I want to get the hero cards. But I think all that stuff really matters, and like it was beneficial to like people who these are all people that were 8-1 and they did well in sealed and they were like wanting to do well in limited. It's like those are the things you have to think about in draft. Like what are you going to do? When am I going to get paid off? In the final draft, top 8 draft, I really got paid off in pack 2. This one not so much because the Talzin was to the left, but yeah, it's just it's interesting how much thinking you can go into it and actually kind of predict what's going to happen.
All right, so let's talk about your day 2 deck here that you were just mentioning.
So this is the draft. This is going into rounds 10, 11, and 12. So like I said, so I've got Dusty, who I'm not exactly sure on my right who's going to be passing me, but I know he doesn't have Talzin, and then I have a Talzin to my left. So I actually first picked Fallen Jedi in sort of a very mediocre pack. One of my approaches to both sealed and draft was just get as many of the good 2-drops as possible, really valuing them as much as I could, and I just didn't see any in the first pack at all. But I did get a solid amount of, I think I went like back-to-back Fallen Jedi. It was like, okay, and then I took the Bolstered Endurance I took really high, and what put me into yellow was I took Baskel, like pick 6, who's not a fantastic card, but then I got a Will of the Force like pack. Balin's cool. And then
Baskel Argente is a senator. from
Right,
the
right,
planet of
right. Then I got the
Milestone.
Will of the Force, the Waylay card. I got that like pick six, and then I was like, okay, cool. And then I sort of understood like what was happening. Like Dusty wasn't yellow. I could cut yellow, so I could get yellow cards coming back the other direction. And then I was like, hey, two drops are drying out. If I can get an Aura Sing, multiple Aura Sings, maybe a Shin Hati comes up, like I'm really going to be cooking. So I jumped into yellow. I got the double raid guy as well. Like I think he tabled or something. I was
Yeah,
like,
Nile
that's
Marauder.
yellow's just completely open. And I think a lot of the cards that I took early on were like that. I forget the name, but you can see on the far right the card that's like -3/-3 if you have a force unit.
Whirlwind.
Essence Drain. Like I took cards that were sort of like reasonable blue cards. I didn't open obviously a Talzin Assassins or anything like that. But that's where I stood after the first pack. And then, sort of bearing the lead here, pack two, I opened my pack, and I'm hoping for a Talzin's Assassin. I'm hoping for a Karis, and I opened Darth Vader, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like, I got Talzin, I got like blue veil, and I opened Darth Vader. Nothing else in the pack would warrant taking it over. It would have been weird if I had like Darth Vader in like a secretive stage, because I would have taken the Darth Vader, but like
Yeah,
it's
it's tough.
possible that secret
I
stage
think
is
Vader's the
actually
better call,
better.
especially when you're already in yellow and like if you draw Sheen
Yeah,
Flurry, like you could
right.
absolutely take over a game on turn 7, like with an early claim.
Right. And I thought to myself, like, what are the odds? I need to win one game. What are the odds that Vader wins me a match just based upon, and we'll get to that in my round 10, but based upon, like, being able to use his ability. And then, strangely, in pack two, I got past a Karis, and I almost, like, leaped out of my chair. And, like, not necessarily that early. I think it was, like, a pick three Karis. So I don't know if something happened on the other side where there's just no blue, and maybe the Talzin player got like Talzin's Assassin and then a Chirrut or something like that. But I was like ecstatic to get the Karis. I picked up an Owen because I was like, Owen finds Vader. That's kind of cool. And then, sort of got there. You can kind of see like one of the things I did like about this deck is there's a lot of things that I can do with it. You got like upgrades, and you've got removal, and you can see the card on the far right is that Power the Dark Side card for 5.
Yeah, the
Um,
tragedy of Darth Plagueis. I was gonna say,
Tragedy
like
of Dark
in
Plagueis.
general, your pool doesn't look very strong. Like, it doesn't have like your typical Talzin stuff that makes Talzin good. But what you do have is like a really, really solid early game that won't die and will let you push damage, and then like
Yep.
just enough tricks on the back end and some bombs to just make sure that you close the game out. And I think the most
Right.
interesting thing to really consider here is because you were 9-0, you only had to win one game out of the three.
Right.
You could have gone 0-2 and just had to win the 0-2 game, and you still would have made it.
Right. And
So
I targeted the first match. Like I wanted to win the first match so badly because I knew if I lost, I'd actually be playing someone who won, and I could be playing against someone with like a draft deck, and I had a bad draft deck. So like quite a bit of pressure on the first one.
yeah,
Um,
only that wouldn't have been true. They paired based on the pod standings, not the actual standings. So you would have
oh,
still
that's
played someone
crazy.
that
So I would
lost.
have
Yeah,
played someone. That's interesting. But I was happy
but
with
we
this
didn't
in the
know.
sense of like I got it. I had tricks. I had the curve. I wanted to. My plan in this was to mulligan for a 2-drop. One of my 3 2-drops, not 5. The ships didn't really count; they just
Right.
were there. As if you
Like let
mulligan, you
games
missed,
go
maybe you
by.
hit the ship,
Yeah.
and that worked. And yeah, what did yours look like? I thought yours was quite
Yeah,
good,
and you had Talzin, which, like, again, you got to win one game. You want to be Talzin.
and
I
you want to be
played,
thousand.
I opened a million packs this weekend. I didn't open a single Talzin. So,
It's
like I
crazy.
mentioned here, when I got my leaders from my packs, I was like pretty happy that I opened an Ahsoka. I definitely wanted to be Ahsoka. I wasn't, if I couldn't be Talzin or Obi Wan, and then when I got past Obi Wan and I looked to my right, like I think there were Obi Wans with the 3 picks to my right as potential options. So I really just was like, all right, I have an Obi Wan, but I would much rather just navigate this with Ahsoka. Play the blue, like be in blue, and then play whatever second color I could. And the name of the game for this weekend was yellow was just wide open everywhere.
Yes,
I got
everywhere.
so much insane heroic yellow stuff. Stinger Mantis and Blue Squadron Assault Wing just absolutely carried. Jedi Guardian, absolute bomb in Ahsoka. But I also got Chirrut. I got Itinerant Warrior, even though I never drew her. I got Ezra Bridger ×2, even though I never drew him. And then things like Lothcat, Impossible Escape, and Will of the Force were in all of my decks except I didn't have Lothcat in my final deck, but I did play both Impossible Escape and Will of the Force in day one, in day two, and in my red green Snoke deck in top eight, because like I just wanted tricks. And I'll get to why I did it in the top eight deck, but I really just wanted to have these big butted guys that could be sentinels, but also that attacked hard. Like those Tusken trackers hitting for 4 are absolutely fantastic. I had plenty of 2-drops. I had a little bit of space. I got Qui-Gon's lightsaber and heirloom lightsaber. I first picked Shatterpoint, and I think I first picked Shatterpoint, and then second picked heirloom lightsaber, and then I was just like, cool. I'll just find my units at some point, and then just get the late game.
Great.
Get the late game gifted urchins. I thought it looked great. Even Wu was like, your pool looks like your draft looks broken. Like, great job. Like it's like exactly what you would have wanted. But the only problem is game one I played against a Kit Fisto deck with like triple Nightsaber, and so my deck full of Sentinels got completely out blitzed, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so stressed. And I lost game one on each of the next 2 rounds, so I was just really up against it. But I knew I had a good deck. I just had to draw the cards and not get overrun. And then the Sorcerers of Tund and the Jedi Guardians were just huge, as well as the upgrades.
And Ahsoka kind of does fly a little close to the sun sometime, even though this version has a lot of really, like 2 Ezra and like the Chirrut. You have kind of the ability, like we had talked about wanting to draft the Ahsoka deck, and like you kind of want some early Sentinels, and then you want to have the Jedi Guardian combo with Ahsoka, just sort of having this incredible barrier.
And then she hits
but
hard.
There were games where like you get to like 21, 22, and like you're down, and they hadn't taken much because you're kind of trying to keep their board down a little bit, but then eventually you take over.
Yeah, but you get to do things like I had Itinerant Warrior. I had the heirloom lightsaber, so I could get a little restore in there, and
a little bit of restore.
When you can protect the Ahsoka flip and suit her up, then all of a sudden like your protect-the-pods are hitting for 8. I had great like Shatterpoint and Will of the Force were just absolutely massive. Impossible Escape, like always drawing me a card, just fantastic. And then the Qui-Gon's lightsaber for the like super rush surprise strike-esque damage was great.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about top 8.
Oh, baby.
All right, so we get to top 8. We don't have pictures of that draft, but in the top 8 draft, this one was really wild. So you come in. What place did you end up in?
I was second. So kind of recapping the last draft, I actually did win round 10 against Dusty. So me and Dusty played back-to-back rounds. We were the last undefeated in day one. We played in the 9th game, and I won on the fatigue game. And then he ended up going Kit Fisto. He was in that pinch corner, like I said. I was Talzin, and his deck just wasn't doing. You could tell he didn't have a great experience. That can happen. And I went, and I hit like game one. I like drew my kit. My hand was like Karis and Darth Vader, and I was like, I'm not gonna miss my 2 because I have Karis. I had a 3-drop as well. Like, I'm going to be able to win the game with just Talzin plus a curve plus Darth Vader. Like, this is probably going to happen. It's pretty much exactly what went down. He played a Leia, which was kind of surprising. I was like, how does this work in limited? But like the thing is like Kit Fisto was able to kill enough guys, and Kit was like attacking for 1, and then Vader ultimately took over the game. He did have some good like sort of scary cards, like he had a mace and stuff like that. But ultimately, Talzin's able to win those grinds pretty well, especially if they don't go to space. He had some ships, but like the Vader puts a shield on. He played the droid to kill his own shield, which was funny, but I just had a lot of pressure. And then game 2 was like basically that same exact game, except Vader actually killed the Leia. I drew Vader again. I actually kept a risky hand with Drain Essence with no 2-drop, and he mulliganed and played Vulpex, and I was able to kill it and get the Force and then play a 3. So was super pumped to just get to 10-0. Did drop my next game. I think I punted in 3, but it didn't matter. And then drew the last one to end up in the second. And you had a nice run where you, like you said, you kind of won back-to-back games in both your rounds, and you were in 5th place and I was in 2nd place.
Yeah. All right, so top 8 draft. We opened the packs. I opened Snoke, Cal, and shoot, I forget the other one. We were just talking about it this morning too. Hold on, I'm gonna start this over. Do you remember where I asked you that? Oh, Cal
The
Obi.
Snoke, Cal, and
So I opened
Anakin.
Snoke Kit Cal. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna start that over. 20, 24, 21. Okay, sorry, getting back. All right, let's talk about the top 8 draft. So I opened Kit, Cal, and Snoke, and there were like 3 Talzins at the table, 3 Obies at the table. So I was just like, oh my god, everyone's going to be fighting over these best decks. I don't know how I'm gonna navigate a fair game with being like 3 Talzins to my left, or 3, like basically 3
Pretty
Obies and
right.
three to, yeah, to either side of me basically. And so I had Snoke, and Antonio, I was sure was going to take Ahsoka, and he ended up passing me Ahsoka. I thought I was just going to get his Kanan, but he ended up passing me Ahsoka Anakin, so I got to take an Ahsoka. So I did have an option to be in Hero, and you actually thought I was going to be in Hero, but I just said, like, I'm never going to beat any of these guys in a fair fight. Like Obi-Wan and Talzins, like these decks are going to be broken. I am going to play Snoke. I'm going to go all villain low drop. I'm going to try and get all the villain space. I'm just going to try and space aggro. And ended up first picking Battle Fury to try and get me there. And I wavered between red and yellow, and that's why I ended up with like very short of playables. But I ended up in red in the end. What were you thinking as you opened your leaders?
So I was not happy. I opened a Talzin and like 2 unplayables. Not unplayables, but like Grand
Guys
Inquisitor
that
or
you didn't
something
want,
like
yeah.
that. Talzin's great. And I was happy that the person to my left that we played in the finals, he opened like Obi and 2 unplayables. So I was like, okay, he's going to be Obi, I'm going to be Talzin. That's not the worst thing. He's going to be able to feed me. Unfortunately, the people to my right and second to my right also opened Talzin. So I was kind of like, I know that I'm going to be downstream from 2 Talzins, but no real other choice. So I took the Talzin and I got past Kit Fisto. Took the Kit Fisto. Was like briefly said to myself like, do Kit Fisto? But then I was sort of like, you know what? Let me try to just figure out what color is getting passed to me in the first pack from the Talzins. And it's interesting that you were between red and yellow because I also was between red and yellow, and we actually both went red. I think if I had went yellow, if I'd figured out if I could have gone yellow a little bit earlier, maybe I could have made a slightly better deck. But the other thing is the yellow was also clumped.
Mm-hmm.
So like all the there was like a Will of the Force and then that the villain card, the rare that steals a card in
Yeah,
the
in the
same
same
pack.
pack, yeah.
So it was multiple times where it was like just multiple yellow cards. So I decided to essentially try to cut red, and I got quite a bit of red coming from my right in pack 1. But it was stuff that ultimately wasn't going to be good against you. It was going to be good against all the Obi players. So it was like double Purge Trooper. I did get an Acolyte. I got a Sorcerer's Blast in the first pack, and I was like, all right, this isn't the worst. I think I first picked an Acolyte. So I wanted the 2 drops. I didn't want to like risk not having the 2 drops. I had like a Night Sister Warrior. Maybe that was my first pick, but it was. I didn't have anything that was super crazy in the first pack, but I had like 8 of my picks were red.
Mm-hmm.
But halfway through the pack, I was getting past Will of the Forces. I was getting past the 1/4 haste Force guy for 2. Like I was getting a lot of yellow, and I was like, man, the yellow just keeps coming. If I had seen a Shin Hati, I probably would have jumped, and I didn't
I
see one. I
was
don't know
gonna
if there was
say
ever
like
one in any draft. Like
what?
I
No,
don't think I ever saw that
I
card.
was just having the exact same thoughts. I never saw her, and like I think when it was in between pack 1 and pack, maybe I don't remember what pack it was, but I looked and I was like, I have strike ships, and like I don't have any Aura Sings or Shinhadi, so like I'm just gonna
Right.
go red. Like this yellow stuff is fine, but it's kind of mid, so I'm just gonna go lean in and try and get as many strike ships as I can. So then we both win. I won my top 8 match against the guy who beat me in Swiss,
Revenge tour.
and got revenge, and I won both games without flipping Snoke. Like that's how
Yeah,
aggressive my
that your
deck
deck
is.
was busted. My deck looked good from afar.
Well, let's talk.
In pet,
Yeah, let's talk about
yeah.
it.
So if you look, that's the draft. We'll get to
Oh,
we can talk
sorry.
about that in a
Here
bit.
we go. All right, so let's take a look at
So
your deck.
this deck looks good from afar, right? You see the Grand Inquisitor. That was something that got paid off in pack 2. I got past the Grand Inquisitor, either pack 3 or pack 4. Pick 3 or pack 4 in that one. So I think you opened it and
I
went
opened it, so you
through.
got to pick 3. Yep.
And then I also got a Talzin's Assassin.
Past the Talzin.
In
I
a
just fed you so much, right? Like that GI, that Talzin's Assassin. Like I was like, oh my god,
They
Justin's
both came, and I
Talzin's deck is
first
gonna be
picked
so good.
pack two. I opened Old Daka. So my first three picks in pack two, I sat up in my chair a little bit. I was like, Old Daka, Grand Inquisitor, Talzin's Assassin. I was like, okay, because after pack one, I was like, this is not going to win the draft. Like I looked at my cards and I was like, I don't have the start that's going to win the draft. Um, but I got those three, and then I did get the twos kind of came a little bit later for me, and I was like, all right, this is cool. Like I'm starting to get like a second acolyte really late. I got a second Night Sister Warrior. I got randomly got the whales. We'll talk about those a little bit later in the Sixth
Yeah,
Sentinel.
I didn't realize you had
I
two.
will say in pack three, I got past a chert, which was just like so
Yeah, that's
bizarre to
wild.
me.
Yeah,
I
especially
was
with
like,
Talzin's to your right.
Paladin's my right, and I think I got it like pick three. Like I don't understand that one. But yeah, I had this, and I got the double Sorcerer's Blast. So like you look at this deck, and this is sort of what I think is a trap. You look at it and you say, this is a good deck. It's a fine deck, but there's not much pressure.
Yeah, your
And
early
there's
game you have
also
stuff, but you don't have anything that like trades and lives.
yeah, and there's actually not that many ways to win the game. Like it's Old Daka and it's the Corvette,
And the thralls, I actually
and the
passed two
Thralls.
thralls because I was taking the cheap space stuff, and I was like, I want these thralls, but like my Snoke deck's not going to work if I'm not
Right.
hitting
So
in
I've
space
I've
before
got
Starfire.
exactly four cards that can win the game, but I have nothing. One big difference from this deck and the other Talzin decks, and actually my day one Obi deck as well. I have nothing to actually suit up. I have no upgrades in this deck, and that to me is a real downer on this deck. This deck plays defense pretty well. I'd love to tangle on the ground. I won my first match against Obi 2-0 just because of that. I was tangling on the ground. I was playing Purge Troopers were doing 2 damage to Obi-Wan. I was finishing them off with a Talzin's Assassin and a Talzin ability, and I was taking the game over, and I won that 2-0. Sorcerer's Blast was great in conjunction with Purge Troopers and stuff like that. But for games that went longer, I just didn't have much. If you look at my like non-unit cards, I've got the two Sorcerer's Blasts, which are fine. I do have sort of the two proxies for upgrades, and like the something died, put two counters, or do 2 damage and put two counters,
Yeah, I
but
mean
they're
those are
not
both
exactly the
solid,
same.
but they're not exactly the same. But
And I
you
do have the
don't.
combo with the ready whatchamacallit, the 3/7 raid threes ready that unit to attack for
Yeah,
12, but that actually never happened.
they're not force, are they?
I believe they are.
Oh, okay. Um,
Maybe
e-
not. I
either
never
way,
used it. So.
either way, you had it for Quinlan. But yeah, you just and speaking of that pressure, like you just couldn't race me was the problem. Like
Yeah, we
you
played
just
the
felt
finals.
so far behind. So we can move on to mine to talk about what I ended up doing. But like I was all early game. Like I was mulliganing for two ships. I wanted strike
Yeah.
ship, or like forged exegol. I just wanted to go like ship turn one, turn two, buff my ship, play another ship, and I did
Your deck
that.
had such a plan, and
Yeah,
my deck was just like, here's some good cards that are good at limited, but your deck just makes so much sense synergistically. And then you've also got like the tricks that matter. You got the three pumps, you got the even like the overpower and stuff like that. Like, those are so synergistic. This deck was just like I didn't have a chance in the semifinals.
yeah. Well, you really prioritized suit ups in our draft prep, and I was like, okay, I'm first picking Battle Fury. I'm just gonna make
Yeah,
Snoke work, and whatever happens happens. And I just kind of went for it. And this is the same strategy I told a couple people who needed to 3-0 the day two draft to make top eight. It's just like if I'm trying to 3-0, I'm gonna take Snoke. I'm gonna force villain early, and I'm just gonna try my best to like aggro people out who aren't prepared. But yeah, the game plan was great because I couldn't like I you were cracked on Talzin and Obi all weekend. Like I didn't feel like I was gonna be able to win a fair fight against you or anyone with
yeah.
a broken Talzin pool, trying to fight in like among three Obis and three Talzins, right? So like I didn't build my Obi. I focused on Snoke. I focused on villain from the jump and just said like never waver. The strike ships coming ended up being great. The two Praetorian guards, like I think I took one of those over a thrall. Like I just wanted those sentinels for the ground, and then getting like two Terentatex late, two Army of the Dead,
Yeah.
and like I ended up coming up short on playables, and I was like, these Blue Squadron assault wings, they cost 7 and they hit for 6 in space. Like if I come up short and someone has like completely stalled me out, that for 7 at least can probably threaten lethal if everything else works. And then I had great tricks in Will of the Force. Even though if it cost 6, improbable escape, I didn't care if it cost 3. Like my guys were already going to be on the table. I just need to exhaust and win a race. So my plan was just play the early stuff and then present a late game threat as best as I could. And
Yeah, and I
those
think
army of
one
the Dead's were
one
great.
interesting thing you mentioned, you picked the Battle Fury first, and you also have the Sith Holocron. If you didn't take those cards, chances are they actually probably get to me. So no one else in their gaps was red
Red villain.
villain. So we were the only red villain players. So like, and those were the missing pieces from my
Yeah,
deck. Like
from what
those
you
would have been
needed.
so amazing because I would have been like, oh, these go on Tal's, and I can just actually start like chipping you in. The only aggressive card I had was Grand Inquisitor. He was the
Yeah.
only guy who could actually like put damage into the base early.
Yeah, and
So
I didn't
yeah,
have a lot of
those
red
are a
either.
huge piece.
It was really just the strike ships and the buffs and that like one missile ship and Stacey Tin who's like whatever.
Yeah, you
Um,
basically have six red cards,
but yeah,
seven
it's
red
just
cards.
all in on that
Most of
early
the
red
time.
game. And it came through. Like you could watch the games, but I basically started strike ship every game. I went 6-0 in the finals, and the strategy completely paid off.
Yeah, it was great. I
And that was
prefer
it.
not to watch the games though. I don't want to relive a trauma.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, yeah, so we ran it back to back.
Pretty
Pretty.
crazy. It's multiple formats. That's like the
I
really cool
agree,
thing.
and
It's
I
not like
love
we
that
just
it's the
had the
world's
bus
format.
be constructed. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it makes me feel like okay, I'm ready. Like, I wish Worlds was tomorrow. Was tomorrow. I don't
World's
know what
just
I play
tomorrow.
for
Yeah,
Premiere, but
yeah.
I do feel pretty comfortable in the limited format. But we get a new set soon, and I really hope that people use the like this first limited sector and the regional that was limited to be like, okay, limited's important. If I'm gonna win Worlds, I have to be good at limited. To really make
Mhm.
people pay attention because I feel like anytime we've made limited content, it's like shouting into the void.
Well, one of the things I will say though, limited content, yes, maybe people aren't necessarily consuming it, but people are loving playing limited this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was, so you think about it, it was a pretty steep cut to make the second day, 7-2 after 9 rounds. So it was only about, I think, 39 people or 40 something people. But that hall was packed. I know there was a premiere event, but there was people playing side events. Maddie jumped into a sealed.
Hmm.
There were drafts firing all over the place. Like people loved playing limited. They loved playing leaders that weren't always played. It was like it wasn't just hey, let's play the best cards and everyone gets like to a participation trophy. I think it was really fun. Like people were actually like exploring different leaders. I mean, you would never have played Snoke if you had access to every single thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you were able to navigate it and figure it out. We saw like three of the people that made the top eight played Kit Fisto to get there.
Yep.
We were talking about like, would you play Kit Fisto? Kit Fisto is something that like isn't necessarily gonna see the light of day. So it was really cool that people had to make things. The off-color stuff is like really neat. Yeah, it was really awesome to see people just loving limited. Like such like a lot of joy in playing the game.
Yeah. And I had a lot of fun too. Obviously, winning is fun, but like it just you have to think about so much more. You have to think
Yeah,
about what everyone could have. There were a couple games where I like my opponents were like, you know what, I'm just gonna scoop because like I was sitting there thinking from a like what could they have? What should I do? Like those times when you can claim for lethal or you have to say like, okay, are they gonna get me? Um, or like when
Mhm.
you left one resource up and I just knew you had the sorcerer's blast and I'm like, all right, I had to think for like
Right.
2 minutes. Do I let him sorcerer's blast me now, or do I let him do it later? Um, like that's a real tough decision to make, and like there's so many different things you get to think about in limited that you would never ever think about in constructed.
Yeah,
Like, am I
100%.
willing to
It's so
trade
much
one of
fun.
my cards for one of your cards on turn two, without playing
Hmm.
a guy, and you did play a guy? So like, it's just I don't know. I love it. I agree. Like, I think it's perfect. I think it's really hard to draft. Like, they're just. I think it's really hard to get 30 playables out of 3 packs, 42 cards. Like, you just don't have that many misses. Um, that's the only thing I like. Like FFG, add 2 cards per pack, please. Like, I don't know what to say, but um,
Well, I think like the nice thing about limited is like, did you play any games that were almost felt the same way? I mean, yes, like the final deck you were doing like pretty broken things with like straight shit, but like there's just so
yeah,
many
that was a
different play
super
patterns.
linear deck. Yeah. No, I
But
mean,
there's
I
so many
think
different play patterns and so many different things that you see. There's a tauntaun out. There's this thing
I don't
happening.
know.
There's
I
all
felt
types of cool.
my day one deck was pretty much on a track. Like play a youngling warrior or a mysterious
Yeah, that's
hermit,
right.
get the turn one pump, play a Maz, play the 2/6, pump that. Like just keep pumping, play my 5/5 ship and pump that and hit. So like I don't know. It's not that the play pattern mattered, but it was just like there's a lot more to explore than I think people give it credit for. like you
Yeah,
said, the
it's not
Kit
just the
Fisto
same old
thing,
cards.
the snow,
It's not
like,
like ECL Poe, Overwhelming Barrage. Like it's not like the same things. You're actually like you're just doing different things. You know,
yeah,
so Han flip turn, resupply, play a 7. Like those things are cool. I enjoyed those in Portland, but I had way more fun in Philly than I did in Portland. I will say
yeah,
that.
it's cool. All right, man. Well, that's it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following along. And I don't know. Maybe we'll see you when we see you
Later on.
later on.